Justin, hi, Jim Delapine here. I want to give you some video feedback on this character and this terrific background you put in here, but I want to note that you have to have the name Terrible Toys Todd in here, not this rolling gun bot stuff. I mean, you could fit it somewhere else if you want, okay, but so let's just get rid of that for now. Okay, and so let's take a look at the fact that I need to see adjustment layers that are clipping mask and saved and renamed channels. Okay, perhaps I can work with that as I proceed, but I'm also noting how to do that in my comments area. Okay, so first of all, the character is too wide. You have to have him within the 6 by 8 inch area. Actually, this is the image is too large. If I go to image size here, it's 8.5 by 11. It can't be that. It has to be 8 by 10 by 300. All right. So what you could do is simply this. Okay. At least you have the resolution in there. So the rest is simple. So if I go to my cropped tool, you can go width by resolution. Okay. So you could type it in here. So it would be 8 and then tab 10 and tab and 300. Okay, so that means that this is going to, you can now crop this out accordingly. So as long as you have 8 by 10 by 300, it's going to crop it to be that. Okay, so you have to scale this in here, and yeah, as long as you get the images in there, you'll be good. So looks like, yeah, you know what? I'm afraid to do that. Let me just not do that yet. Yeah, okay, I just have to check something. So we can actually do that. What happened here? Okay, so you want to crop this. So this area here that we see will now, no, see this, I'm trying to maximize the image in here. All right, so this is what will work. All right, 8 by 10 by 300. Once you hit enter or click on this check mark, it's now going to crop this image to be 8 by 10 by 300, not 8.5 by 11 by 300. All right, so you got to do that. And yeah, it's a lot of pixels in here too. And I see that I just missed that edge there. Oh man. All right, so I'm going to cheat here. I'll select everything, hit Control T, and zoom in, and just pull it over right to the edge, and then hit enter. Okay, so now we're good. Although it did kind of screw up this. No, oh no, it didn't. Okay, so let's look at this now. So first of all, we need to fit the character in within a 6 by 8 inch area. So if I select everything above the background layer up to the, looks like layer 7, up to right underneath the text, and hit Control T. All right, and then I'm going to click on any corner, click start dragging in, and then hold down Shift as you're dragging and Alt or Option. That will scale it in proportionally to the center. So something like this would be fine. All right, so I would say something like this. Hit enter. All right, so now we click away, and now we're going to select the gun. This gun, everything is, it doesn't really look attached yet. We really want it to look more attached, so we're going to create a shadow under here, and we're going to take this gun here. Notice if you have auto select checked and you're in the move tool, once you click on any image, it'll go right to that layer. Okay, so we're going to move this layer up so it's above, and then I'm going to just let's see, I'll hit Control T and rotate this a little bit and have this come up here maybe. I'm looking at the position because we want this coming in front and into, or make it look like it's going into the gunball area. So let's bring it up even more. All right, so now I would say something like right, I'm going to use my arrow keys to increment it down, so something right around here. I'll hit enter. Now this really isn't realistic because it's not going to go through glass, but we'll cheat a little bit. So with that layer active, select the layer mask. Go to your paintbrush tool. Make sure you're in 100% hardness. Okay? Black is your foreground color. If you don't have black and white, just hit the letter D and then X. You want black as your foreground color. So now with the layer mask active, I'll click here to make it look like it's going behind the gumball. All right, I don't know what that means. It's, but it's something. You can't really have it going through glass without really being artistic and making it look like there's a cutout in the glass, but that's a lot of effort. All right, so let's talk about text. So I have some text created here. All right, and so let's put text and take advantage of the background. We'll make this really cool. So let's take Terrible. We'll bring this up here. I'll bring Toys here and Todd here. All right, because I'm going to have this match or blend into the background. So with the word Terrible active, I'm going to right click on this and select rasterize type. So now it's art. All right. Then I'm going to hit Control T, and with the Control or Command key active, I'm going to click in the middle right bounding box and just drag this straight up, and I'm going to make this look like it's on the top area here. I can also kind of stretch the perspective and pull this up a little bit, something like that. Okay, there's enough of the word so that it's readable. So it's not exactly centered, but that's okay. So just you got to fiddle with it. All right. So I would say that's okay. I'll hit enter. Now we'll work with toys. Toys. I'll have this blend into the wall. So again, I'm going to right click and make that. I'm going to rasterize that type. I'll hit Control T and I'm going to scale this out tremendously. And I'm going to also pull this down and distort it. All right, I'll hit enter. We're going to place this behind Todd also. So now we're going to work with perspective. So if I go to edit, transform perspective, and that's one of the reasons I had to rasterize the type, because perspective doesn't work with text. I could do this and pull this down. So basically you want to fiddle and line up the perspective lines with the top and bottom. That looks really good like that. All right. Then we'll take Todd, do the same thing, rasterize the type, and I'm going to, I don't know where I'll put him. I guess I could put him in the front area here. I mean, I could, let's make it all, yeah, I think this will work better. All right, so let's take that. I will rotate this, place this here, hit enter, and then hit Control T again, and then fiddle around with the perspective. By control dragging these corners, I can individually drag the corners and make everything match. Note that I really want this to look like it matches the perspective on the floor. So you're looking at these lines here. So the perspective would be quite dramatic. That looks fair. Actually, no, something like this would be accurate. Okay, and I'll hit enter. Okay, so to continue, that looks pretty good. So you're gonna have to fiddle with it. Just make sure that the lines line up with the text. I'll hit enter. All right, and that will apply that transformation. All right, so what we're going to do with this is use this to create selections out of. Okay, so I'm going to start with Terrible. So if you control click on the thumbnail for Terrible, it'll put a selection around that text. I'm now going to hide that text and go down to my background layer and select that, and then hit Control J. So nothing visually happens, but what did happen was it copied what was in that selection to the layer above, and it looks like that. So what do you do with that? You make a layer style out of it. So you double click on that layer and then click on Bevel and Emboss, and you'll start to see an immediate result. So you have control over this, okay? You could choose outer bevel, inner bevel. You could also select the light source. So to make it look better, you have to bring this around. That looks pretty good. So you have to determine what will look best. Okay, so that looks pretty good like that. So, but there's other things you can do here. Like for example, you can put a color overlay. So if I select color overlay, you can. I don't know how effective this will be because it's against gray, but you can, like for example, let me cancel here. If you increase the opacity here, you have to fool around with the opacity. You could put a color in there. You could change the color by clicking on the color box, and I don't know, select the blue maybe. Whatever you decide that you think looks good is fine. You may want to pick up a color from here. You could actually sample some of these colors, or maybe this blue would be more appropriate, to match this blue. So it looks like a cool color would be good. Okay, so I'll hit OK, and then OK again. All right, so we've got that. So toys. All right, we'll do the same thing. Move tool, this checked. Click on toys, it goes right to that layer. Control click on the thumbnail or command click, hide the layer, go to your background, select it, and hit Control J. All right, it copied that to the layer above. Now you double click on that, and I don't mind if part of the word is not seen. That's fine. So now what we'll do is check the bevel and emboss. It comes up with this, the same kind of settings that you did before. So that might work to your advantage. It might not, but that's okay. So bevel and emboss, again, you can fool with the light source, but notice it does. That's kind of odd. I always thought that was odd that it affected. It's on a different layer, but I don't know. It affects all that. You can get around that if you wanted to. Ask me how, but I won't go into it now. But the color overlay you can change individually, so you could select another color if you wanted. That same color might be fine. Actually would, but this stands out more, so I'll just hit OK to this and OK to that. I'll leave that decision to you. So now I'll select this layer here. Control, click on that thumbnail, hide the text layer. Go down to the background, Control J, brings that to the layer above. You can actually also do this. You can steal or copy these layer styles by Alt or Option clicking on the FX and dragging it down to this new layer. See the double arrowhead? That means it's copying. I'll let go with my cursor, and that brought in the same exact settings, which I can go in and change by clicking on the name of the color overlay, for example, clicking the color. I may want to go back to a blue again, whatever works. You may want to pick up the color of the orange of the basketball. I don't know. But it's up to you. So I'll just go with the blue. All right, with the blue and the bevel and emboss. Again, I don't understand how I can. Yeah, well, I do understand, but we'll just hit OK, and then that looks pretty good. All right, so I also need you to create adjustment layers that are clipping masks. Okay, so for example, let's go to the gumball. All right, let's take this and we'll select that layer and create a levels adjustment layer, for example. All right, so once this comes up, the first thing you want to do is make this a clipping mask. If you don't, this is what happens. Watch when I drag this over, it's going to affect all of the underlying layers. So to avoid that, you want to attach this to the gumball layer, or as you used to call it, layer 5 copy. So I'll Alt or Option click in between the layers. Bam. It now attaches to that underlying layer. Okay? I mean, that looks much too bright. I don't like it, but actually this looks fine the way it is. Okay? But as long as you create it, you don't even have to change the settings, and then create a clipping mask, you get credit. Okay? I just need to know that you can do it. All right? So I mean, this gun might need something that is a little overall gray and maybe needs some contrast to pop. So if you create one for, let's say, brightness contrast, immediately Alt or Option click to make it a clipping mask, and then go in there and adjust the contrast, um, maybe it's the brightness, you know, something to help it pop. All right. You could also make that a color by selecting that layer again and selecting Use Saturation and adjust the hue, which is, the color. All right. It won't change too much because it's an overall gray, but you can increase the saturation to make it a bit more vibrant. So it's something to have fun with and experiment with and learn from. Okay. So keep that in mind. All right. So if you do that, I think we will be well on the way. Now, I also want to point out this cannot be cut into. This is a DVD or CD. I notice these lines here too. So this is this layer here, right? If I isolate this layer by Alt or Option clicking here, you can't see it, but there's white lines going around the edge of this, and this looks silly. You don't. I don't want you. I want you to take that out. All right. It can't exist here. These balls over here can exist. Okay. So, or I don't know. Just having them float there, it makes it not work. Everything else can work, but these just can't exist here. You could, well, I mean, they could, for example, you could do this though. If you're going to make this work, here's what you do. Create a layer style, double click on that, and create a drop shadow. All right, select the drop shadow and determine the light source. All right, fool around with this. See, that's affecting everything. Why? Oh, I know why. Here's how we avoid that. You make this a smart object. All right. When you do that, it opens up if you make it a smart object and then double click on this little icon, you're then going to create. I don't know if this is going to work. Wait a second here. Let me go back here and do this again. Yeah, this is how we do it. So to create a drop shadow, now it's isolated to only that layer. I forgot to tell you that. That's how you avoid that duplication or that change with the other layer styles that we copied. You make it a smart object. So then you'd want to determine the light source. So actually, it's not working. Why? That's because, I'd have to go in here. So you double click here. Man, let's see here. Drop shadow, but this might fall outside the area. So let's decrease the distance. I want to see if this worked. It did not. All right. Well, in any event, there's a way around that too. All right, let's cheat here. I'm trying to make this work for you. You wanted this, so if you want that to work, here's what you do. All right. You control click on the layer to make that a selection. You then select the layer below and then create a new layer so it's underneath this ball. All right. You then fill that selection on that new layer that's underneath the gumball layer with this, I would say dark. No, let's make it black. I'm sorry. Let's make it black. Let's keep it simple. All right, so Alt Delete fills with the foreground color, or Option Delete fills with the foreground color. Okay, you can't see it because it's underneath. Okay, so now what you do is you can use your Move tool to move that down, and let's say to the right. Okay, deselect, and then go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. And you'll see an instant result if you have preview, but you basically want to blur that out so that it resembles a shadow. Okay, and then you can lower the opacity of it if it's too strong. and that's how at least it would look three-dimensional and it's on the surface. Okay, so to make things easier also, this layer here, the shadow, duplicate that by hitting Control J, and then if you use your arrow tool, you could scrub it over to say that it's underneath there, and there you go. All right, so I'm going to stop here and have fun. All right, man. Don't forget, you need to save a channel, save a selection as a channel, and rename it. I'm giving you directions. And you need to create a layer mask. I'm sorry, an adjustment layer that is a clipping mask. All right. All right. Take care.